Hello and welcome to Thoughtfully Fit Thursday. I am Darcy Loma and I am here today with some really cool guests, Kim and Jason Kotecki. Thank you for joining me today, Kim and Jason.
Hello, Darcy. It's great to be here with you.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, I'm so honored. You all were my very first entree to when I first joined the National Speakers Association, when I became an entrepreneur, started my business, I went, and I think, Jason, you were the first speaker, or at least one of the first speakers that I went and saw. And I immediately was like, oh my gosh, I need more of them in my life. In particular, the one thing I remember, I mean, you said a lot in the presentation, but the one thing that I really remember that you said is some version of like, you do you. And you said that, early on you would work the crowd before the event because that's what you learned. You greet people and you shake hands and you tell stories, and that you learned that as an introvert, you needed to really save your energy for on stage. And so you gave yourself, and this is my words, you gave yourself permission to not do it like others do it. And I was like, oh, that's golden. You mean I don't have to do that? Like, it makes me more nervous. It was such a gift.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad. Yeah, that is a process, and especially when you are starting a new thing and you jump into a new community and a new industry and all that. It's like you look to the leaders to see how am I supposed to act. What are the best practices? But ultimately, I think the best practice is to figure out what makes you you. And when you do that, you become uncopyable. You become different and unique, and you stand out. And there's a certain point where you have to kind of let go of those best practices. But it's hard because you're like, I don't know if I'm good enough or worthy or all that. So that's very, very nice of you to say that you still remember that, because I remember that was a while ago. So
it was a long time ago, and I have been watching and learning from both of you since then. And it's one of the things what you just said, I think you've done really well, is you do you and being uncopyable. And so today what we're exploring is time to get playful. And so just to set the stage, I every year have an annual intention, and it's usually around grit and resilience and focus, right? And this year, inspired by Escape Adulthood, which is what you all do amazing, and I was a founding member of the Wonder and Whimsy Society. I decided to go a different route and to make playfulness my intention for this year. And here we are, 4 months in, and I suck at it. Like last year, my intention was minimalism, and 4 months in, I was cleaning the garage. I was simplifying. I was unsubscribing from newsletters. This year, I'm like, I don't know how to do this. As a matter of fact, in preparing to go live with you today, I'm like, I should probably wear something playful. I have nothing. I had to go ask my my daughter for, do you have a t-shirt? She's like, how about Captain America? I'm like, yeah, who's that? Oh, Mom, Marvel. So I feel like a little bit of a fraud. So I want to just start and ask you if you would share a little bit about Escape Adulthood and how you got to the point of having an entire business and like a whole community around this focus.
Well, first of all, I think the fact that you've struggled so much with it tells me that you picked correctly, that your intention that is meant to be, because that's right. What they're supposed to be.
That's what those are supposed to be, right?
Yeah, maybe the other ones were too easy and they didn't need to be as much of a focus. But what we do is we are for people who honor their childlike spirit and want it back, or are looking for a community to help them keep it alive, because it's really not something. It's something that can really die pretty easily in our society with so much seriousness and negativity, and especially this last year we've been through. So we were for people who feel like they're on an island. And in your case, like, I think you honor that, right? You honor that idea of playfulness. You've talked about how important it is and how the research backs it up, but you just need to get it back. And I think that's the one thing I would say to start off is, we were all experts at this at one point. So to say like you're not doing a good job or we're experts or anything, like we were all like 5-year-olds know how to play. They just know how. And so it's really a matter of tapping back into what came naturally to us when we were younger. And it might look different for all of us, but it's about a rediscovery, not a brand new discovery. I don't know what you would add to that, Kim.
Well, about 15 years ago, we coined this term adultitis. And it allowed us to put a label on something we were experiencing as we were transitioning into adulthood. We actually started dating in our teens, and we were becoming adults together. And it was one of those opportunities as a couple to say, okay, well, we were really playful when we first started dating, and this is common too, right? But then as we went to college and graduated and tried to get jobs and moved and started life together, life became more serious, more responsibilities, bills. Like, you felt like you had to kind of put on a different persona. But we're like, man, that childlike spirit that we had when we first started to date was really what kind of bound us together in a great way. We want to keep that alive. So that was kind of one of the process that we were like, what happens to us grownups when we hit 23, 24, and life just starts to get really serious. And it's this term adultitis. Now, would you be willing to say the definition?
Well, adultitis is a common condition occurring in people between the ages of 25 and 125, marked by chronic illness, mild depression, super high stress levels, general fear of change, and in some extreme cases, the inability to smile. Onset can make cellular benefits of burden of pills, responsibilities, or a boring work life. Generally, patients with this condition are not fun to be around. Thank you, coffee.
But seriously,
that's the fancy way of saying it's the swelling of the adult, which is what adultitis is.
Which is literally what that word means, which was a gift from Seth Godin.
Yes,
he commented on our stuff early on and said, adultitis is the swelling of the adult.
You do realize that means swelling of the adult. I'm like,
that's
what it is. If you have too much adult, you've got problems, right? and it like, we laugh about it, but it's true. It's like, we want to be resilient. We want to be innovative and creative. And the way to do that is to loosen up and be playful and see possibilities. And when we're burdened by adultitis, it's not easy to do that. And that's, I think, what you're talking about. We got into our 20s and became grown-ups, and it was like, this grown-up thing is not all it was cracked up to be. And we figured we needed to make sure that we didn't descend down that road to adultitis, which is easier said than done. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I'm hearing you say, where people get stuck, is in the stress of adulting is hard. And you go from being playful and courting each other to all of a sudden we've got a mortgage, we've got kids, we have daycare, we have all these things that we have to do. And so I'm wondering, like, what's the difference that you notice with the people who are stuck in adultitis versus those who embrace the notion of escaping adulthood and finding the joy and the playfulness and that childlike spirit?
I think the people who are able to,
because I'm stuck, so I'm not
alone, Darcy.
No, not at all.
No.
The people who are able to bring the childlike spirit within them alongside with them. So we have kind of a joke, but it's also pretty serious. Like, it's not about being childish, it's about being childlike. And I think, as to allude to what Kim was saying, when we hit adulthood, we're very uncertain about ourselves and we're trying to figure out how we fit. And so we maybe put on an extra layer of seriousness to show that we belong. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think in the process of doing that, we abandon the childlike side of us, the one that's open to possibilities and doesn't take ourselves too seriously. And I think the magic is not to be childish and not pay your bills or play with Play-Doh all day long, but to bring that childlike side with us, because that's just as much a part of us as anything else, so that it can work hand in hand with the responsible side. And I
have an example.
Yes,
we talk about this a lot, is kitchen dancing. Okay. So every day you're in the kitchen, whether it's just, even if you don't do the chores, you have to eat food, right? So when you're in there, especially if you are doing the chores or prep, put on music that you love to dance to. And all of a sudden the vibe in your kitchen will change. Instead of the drudgery, which the kitchen is not my happy place. I'll be honest, it's his happy place, but it's not mine. I don't like anything about the work that happens in that room. And so I tend to kind of get adultitis when I get into those chores. Like, I got to wash dishes again. I got to fill the dishwasher again. Eat healthy again, right? All those things that you kind of like, oh, adulting. But if you have just like your favorite dance playlist, we have a kitchen dance playlist on our phones. We hook that up to the speaker. Before you know it, the whole family's dancing. We're doing like the moonwalk across the kitchen, you know? And oftentimes that becomes like, it totally shifts the vibe of the whole house.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're talking my language. In terms of, it's like a twofer. It's a both and instead of an either or. Like, I need to now not do adult things and go be playful. To me, that's a big cost. And what I'm hearing you say is, be playful while you're doing the kitchen prep or the dishes or those other things, instead of, trying to carve out more time, find ways to be playful doing the things that you need to do otherwise.
Yeah. And you know what, Darcy, this is a good point. You started out by talking about becoming a new speaker and looking at other successful speakers and what they do. And I think it might be a similar thing where it's easy to look at people we brand as fun and say, well, they're fun, they're playful, I must do what they do. And if that doesn't fit with your personality, it's going to feel forced and it's going to feel uncomfortable and awkward. And so that's where I go back to again of like, what are the things you like to do when you were 5 years old or 8 years old that you just did automatically? And maybe it was dancing or reading or climbing a tree, being in nature, like whatever that is, that's playfulness, right? So it doesn't have to look like, I am not the type of person who's going to be super outgoing wearing a clown nose in public. Like, we have a friend of ours, his name is Danny Donuts. And he literally will go to the airport when people actually flew on planes, and he would greet strangers at the airport with a clown nose and applaud them.
Yeah.
I would never do that. Like, I respect that and I love it and I wish I was like that. I'm not like that. So I could be upset with myself that I'm not more like that, but that's not practical or helpful for anyone. So I think that's the thing is, look back to what did you like to do when you were a kid that you naturally did, and how can you bring that back?
Art. So one of the ways for him to escape adulthood and stay lighthearted is to create, right? He loves to make things. He's a maker, whether it's a book or a speech or a piece of art. And mine is nature. So I love being out on walks, which we've done before in the past together, Darcy, and just walking through trails and trying to find magical things like light and,
Well, you like to look for hearts in nature. And that's a playful thing, right? It's like a scavenger hunt for her. And scavenger hunts are fun, right? So it's not necessarily something that people would brand as like, oh, she's the most.
But I combine it with exercise, which is very adult-like, right? That's a should. But
there's the twofer.
Right. There's your twofer again, which I'm kind of
same
a twofer
with kitchen
person.
dancing, by the way.
Right.
Burn some good calories.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And this is so great. I'll tell you the one thing that I was surprised about. So I put out this request for support. I mean, I was hiding in shame for the last 4 months. And finally, I'm like, okay, I need help. I need support. I don't naturally know how to be playful. So I asked for ideas and I said, it's my 50th birthday. I'm going to do 50 playful things in as part of this playfulness challenge. And so I asked for ideas. And you know what was really surprising to me in those ideas, some of them, and what you're sharing right now, Kim, is that I had made up this outrageously, ridiculously rule standard that playful had to be the donut. What is it? Donut, David?
Donuts.
Yeah. And then I had to do these things that were so silly that it felt uncomfortable. I mean, I love nature. We're always looking for heart things from my neighbor Donna when we're out and about. And I was like, wow. So my worst saboteur is Little Miss Perfect Pants. Like, she is like, that's not playful because you like doing that anyway. Right. So I'm hearing you sort of say, you do you.
Yeah. Well, how weird is that like something you enjoy doing that is not right. Like, that's not good enough. Like that's what playfulness is it's basically the idea of doing something you enjoy with no regard to the outcome. right? There's not this pressure that it has to be a certain way. It's just allowing yourself to be a little bit more free. And again, when you were 5 and you didn't have this agenda of people telling you what you had to do, you had a little bit more agency over your how you wanted to play. Did you want to play with Barbies? Did you want to play with Play-Doh? Like, and no one was telling you that's the wrong way to do it. That's the, you just did because it was fun. And that's part of, and again, that's another bonus, is that when you allow yourself to just do something just because, it frees up the side of your brain that is working on those other adult tasks, right? Those challenges, those problems, that you need a good marketing idea. And just sitting down to think of a good marketing idea is not going to get you a good marketing idea, but maybe going out for a walk or browsing a bookstore or something like that, your subconscious then has room to play on its own. And the ideas often come from that. So again, tons of benefits for it, but it's funny to me how we all have that voice in our head. Like, that's, you're not playful enough if you don't have a clown nose on and go to the airport. Like, well, I can relate to that.
No, and the paradox or the irony, I'm not sure the right word here, but that when to be playful is to not worry about the outcome. And yet when you're playful, you oftentimes can get better outcomes. You can get unstuck and access that creativity that you couldn't if you're sitting down focused on the task at hand.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's something about levity and that lightheartedness that playfulness invites that kind of decreases all the tense, hormones, all those stress hormones, right? And then that kind of lends itself to freeing up new parts of your brain. The subconscious is a little bit freer, and all of a sudden creativity is just the natural next step, which versus, continuing to do your work so hard and focus, all of a sudden that stress turns into burnout, which is the work that we do with organizations and companies, right? So it's kind of neat to see how just these little tiny acts, like 1 or 2 little tiny acts each day, can really start to free up your thinking and relieve the stress.
So let me ask you then, as we're closing out, we always end with a core workout, and the core in being thoughtfully fit is to pause, think, and act. And that's like an exercise. If you're going to go build your physical core, you do sit-ups. If you want to build your thoughtfully fit core, you pause, think, and act. I'm going to put you on the spot here, and feel free to throw it back to me. But if you were going to say, how do you engage your core for playfulness and to escape adulthood, what would that look like for the pause, think, act? Like, do you have thoughts on what that might be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like what I said earlier, and I think you'd stop, and then you think, what did I love to do when I was 7 years old? Like, literally, like Kim said, I love making. Like, well, I wasn't necessarily doing oil paintings when I was 7 years old. I was making up baseball leagues with my brother. I was making action figures out of paper and cardboard. I was doing things like that. So, like, think about, what did you like to do when you were 7, and what is the grown-up version, right? Like, what is the part? That's one of the cool things we forget about being a grown-up, is we could actually drive to the store and buy stuff. We would do forts when we were little kids, but now we're adults. We have access to the entire cupboard of sheets and blankets, and we have knowledge of physics, of how to make things better. Like, so I think it's pause, think about what you like to do when you were a kid, and then see what is a way I can kind of bring that back now. Like, what's a version of that? Because it might not be 1-to-1, right? But that's the challenge, I think. It's like, how can I bring that back into my life now? And then, of course, then do it. That's the act part, right?
Absolutely. Right. I mean, it sounds like the pause, like, get off of autopilot, think, is reframing the mindset. What would I have done when I was 7? How would I have handled this? What would make this playful? And then, yeah, the act is to do it. And for me, it feels like probably the pause is the hardest. I'm just going about what I'm doing, and I'm being efficient, and I'm being productive. And what's crazy is, for me, there's a difference, like playful. There's a difference. I find a lot of joy and passion in my work, but I'm not often playful. And so it's like turning the volume up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes we like you said, you are passionate about your work, And that's good. That can be a sense of playfulness, but sometimes it goes a little bit too far on the level of caring what the outcome is, or like the Little Miss Perfect Pants, or what her name is.
Which we all
right?
have
is
that. We
you
all
go
do.
there, and then that cuts off the playfulness, right?
Right.
I want to ask you, what were some of the things you used to do when you were a little girl?
Well,
what were your favorite things?
That is so funny that you say that, because the first thing I thought when you said, go back to that childlike, I was thinking, well, I got feedback from my mom. My older sister's 3 years older, that I'd come, they'd be playing. I'm like, okay, everybody, we're going to do an activity. And I want you to, like, that I've always had this desire to lead and organize and create experiences. And so my first thought, right, it was, oh, I don't know if I ever was childlike. I kind of always was this way. However, as you kept talking, I thought, no, I used to love to go on, on a picnic and a nature hike and for a walk, and to go swimming and horseback riding and sort of carefree. Most of the memories that I have are outdoor in nature that were fun. And I think the difference, what I realized as you were talking, is that there wasn't a purpose. Right? It wasn't like to what end. And that's where I was able to, I was ready to spiral down into a depressed state. Like, I can't do this. I never was childlike.
Yeah, maybe you have to do, like, I love that, the reframing of like, actually though, I was pretty joyful in these moments, right? Instead of saying, well, what was really defined as childlike, and kind of getting caught in the weeds there.
But it's also a sign that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in your life, because it ties into what you do now. Like, that's the other thing I tell people when they're like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I say, well,
a whole nother conversation.
Think about what you like to do and ask why. And so that's a good sign. And we know you enough to know, like, you're in the right spot. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And a lot of people don't have that part. So then it's like, now what do I do that doesn't have the result attached to it, and that just brings me joy for the sake of joy?
And to go to one of the comments, Jennifer was talking about spontaneity. And I think I am definitely not a spontaneous type of person. I am more of Little Miss
You're
details.
way more spontaneous than me, though.
Well, I by definition of what spontaneous is, my days are pretty predictable, okay? Because we have a lot that we manage with our business and home and kids. And so the idea of planning for spontaneity, of leaving a little room in the margins of your schedule, even if it's just an actual thing that you write on your schedule, of like, be spontaneous today. I mean, come on, is that crazy? But that's what we have to do as grown-ups sometimes, is like plan for it.
It's true. I like the idea of leaving room in the margins. I mean,
I was just going to say that that's a beautiful way to say it. And and I put up a couple, thank you for Jennifer and Thomas. I put up a couple of comments. So let me ask you, if, there are people watching this saying, I said, I need more of Kim and Jason in my life. And I subscribe to the newsletter. In the year of minimalism, I cut out so much extra in my life. I kept 2 newsletters that come every week, and yours is one of them, every Sunday. I love because it brings me joy and meaning. So in addition to signing up and subscribing, what are some other ways that people can get more of you?
Well, we it's actually good timing, because we just released golden tickets are available to the Escape Adulthood Summit, which is an annual. Well, it wasn't last year for some unknown reason.
No one can say annual anymore.
Right. We'll just erase 2020, so it's annual. Yeah, and it's basically it's called the Escape Adulthood Summit, and it's in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. We have people that come from all over the country, and it's a 2-day. Part retreat, part workshop, part mastermind for people who want to rediscover that childlike side of themselves and be around other people. That's part of the magic too, is to be around playful people, because then it gives us courage and bravery and inspiration. So if you go to our website, you can find out about that. And just to be on our newsletter list at escapeadulthood.com/subscribe, like you just put up there. Is the best way to kind of find out what kind of crazy things we have going on. Yeah,
we call them Sheboygan shenanigans now that we're here.
I love it. And I mean, you all are being humble. I love what you put out there, but also you have books, you have a lemonade stand. This year for my Christmas presents, because we didn't get together with family because of COVID, I sent everybody a link to a gift certificate for the lemonade stand. And I finally just now went to see my sister's family in the Twin Cities. We're all vaccinated. And the first thing they did when I walked in was show me their Christmas presents that they ordered from you guys. And my sister had a pillow. My brother-in-law had a phone case. I mean, it was fantastic. So there's a lot. So when you go to escapeadulthood.com, poke around, because there's lots of different ways to get that inspiration, the community, the support
Awesome.
that
cool.
you all offer.
Well, I think we mentioned this, but Jason is an artist. And so a lot of what we have as tools and resources revolve around his whimsical and inspiring art. So it's a great gift to be able to just keep putting it out there in new ways. So it keeps us happen.
Yeah. And I think I'll close on that note, that one of the reasons I'm so inspired by what you have designed is because you have found that sweet spot of having a really successful business that makes an impact, that also allows for that margin of playfulness and joy. I mean, it's like this trifecta that's really powerful. So thank you so much, Jason and Kim, for joining me today and giving all of us the gift of your time and wisdom. I'm truly grateful.
It's totally our pleasure.
Thanks for having us, Darcy.
Fantastic. Take care. Yeah, bye-bye.